has come across something like this before.
It's almost like it was like that's these kind of mummies were almost like like they were digging up coal. Like it was like a natural resource. They were just like mining for gold, and they're like
mining for mummies.
This is gold for us right now.
Do you think mummies are zombies, or zombies are mummies?
Is that like a internet thing?
I don't know.
Are mummies zombies?
Yeah, because they're like both undead. I don't know if they both eat
better
brains.
clothes.
I mean, like, yeah.
I mean, I guess if you got to have one,
because I know the mummy was obviously before the zombie. Like the idea of a mummy coming back to life was before they have a zombie, but I feel like they're kind of the same thing. But I do think they are different, though.
It's like a poor man's mummy. Zombie's a poor man's mummy.
Or vice versa.
Over here in America, we couldn't afford some wraps, drying out. We're just gonna throw them on the ground and let them go.
I do think zombies are different mummies, but I've seen people make the argument that they're kind of the same thing.
Again, it seems like mummies were better cared for. Zombies are kind of just kicked to the curb.
Yeah.
Again, we just dump them in the.
Also, I don't know how you kill a mummy. Zombies, just like
unwrap.
Headshot.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Mysterious Pal Show. My name is Chris, and I'm joined by my best pal. You call him Jordan.
Here we go.
His pals call him Joey.
Well,
his dad call him Spicy Toes.
Old Spicy Toes Joey.
And I want to thank him for being here today, for being with me and being my friend.
Hey, thanks for having me, pal.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Today we're going to be going over something that I think is really strange, also not really well known. But first I want to ask you, Jordan, what is the craziest YouTube channel you've ever watched? Craziest channel you've ever followed, watched, continue to watch, seen?
Oh, man.
I'm going to tell you my answer.
Okay, all right. I'll stew it over while you
Yeah. Stew it in. Stir that stew up. Spice it up. Bow.
Spicy Toes.
Spicy Toes, that stew up. I would love if that's how you stew your. Is that how you stew it up?
Just like
It's just your big toe and you're like the next one, whatever that big one is. It's always weirder, longer than the big toe. King toe, whatever. I think that's a Seinfeld episode. But anyway, I'd like to tell you about this episode. I'm going to put it like on the screen somewhere. Let's look like a cat when I did that. It's called Creason English. Okay, so Creason is, I guess, is the YouTube channel, but English is the English version of it because I guess they're from Ukraine or Russia or a combination of it.
So is it get dubbed or,
yes.
or translated? Okay.
Yes. And the best part about this, so the translations are awesome because it's one guy doing all the voices of the people in the videos. And so there's Creason English, but then there's like his friend Super Seuss, who's the one who got me in. Super Seuss is this, I don't know how old he is. He's like a person who could be 10, could be 65. He just has, like, he has a look about him where you're like, you're not sure of his like age. He could be like,
is it like the Andy, what was that one kid that
Benjamin Button? That's a movie.
Yeah.
Brad Pitt.
And he's Zilnakis, or that kid was, you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, okay, no. So
okay.
Andy Milonakis.
Yeah. He just looks young. He's been doing.
Or the best example of this, Jonathan Taylor Thomas from Tool Time,
man.
or from Home Improvement. Sorry,
JTT. Baby.
What a king of my middle school years. Home Improvement, amazing show. Who's someone who never grew up apparently.
Yeah.
Anyway, this person, so Super Seuss.
How'd you come across this in the first place?
I got a lot of time to do nothing.
Was it just like something that, like, you were watching something else and then you went to something else?
Yes, of course. Yes. So
I've
mentioned this before. Like I watch a lot of weird stuff on YouTube, and for some reason, it always goes back to like these very specific channels I watch that are like
abandoned mines and like towns and people that like
ghost town living. Yeah. So this group, they sneak into Chernobyl, but I don't know how the hell they do it because they seem to get caught a lot. They like have an apartment in Chernobyl. Apparently, they're from Ukraine.
Okay.
I guess some of them may be from Russia. I'm not sure their lineage, but in any case, Creason is one guy. But there's others. Friends are always involved in the videos, so it's lots of people. There's a girl named Paulina who apparently lives in America now. I want to say, but I'm not positive. But anyway, and I'm not even sure when these videos are going to play. But they go anyway. When you look it up, All the videos are like, we went to Pripyat. We're remaking our apartment in Pripyat. They like made our own apartment. They have electricity running to it. They have it hidden. It gets destroyed at one point. Someone goes in and smashes it. They are like get caught sometimes. They build a like an actual thing that goes on the train tracks that's like battery operated, and they ride that in. It's real small. Yeah, they ride it into the city. If you look them up, the one video that pops up a lot is Super Seuss going swimming in the water underneath Pripyat, like in one of the reactors. Like he's like going swimming in it.
Is he wearing like gear?
No.
Like protective gear?
No. And then another episode, they go and like they get checked to see if they're irradiated. And they're fine, apparently.
Like,
now, whether this is all fake.
So they're just like, we're going in no matter the consequences?
They go eat in like the cafeteria in Chernobyl because there's like, they have people that work there. And they go to like the cafeteria and eat as if they work there. Because sometimes they dress up as if they're workers.
Where are they getting food from?
Well, first off, they say that they have like delivery services.
Okay.
They break a car into it one time. They're driving on a car in there.
It's nuts, man.
But anyway, they like stay there a lot and they like go on these adventures. They find like this, it's crazy. But anyway, there's like workers that work there at the plant still.
Yeah. Okay.
And so they have they have like a whole thing there. They have like a cafeteria and stuff.
Okay.
So like they go to the cafeteria and eat, and there's just like lunch ladies that work there.
Are they just pretending like they work there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes they do.
Man, the balls on these people.
But they're called stalkers. Apparently there's this huge group of them. Some of them like go, I've watched videos about like they go there and like, I watched this one, Kyle Hill, he does a lot of like educational type of stuff, but he's awesome. He goes and like talks about how there's stalkers that like will go there and fix stuff to make it, because there's so much, ever since that HBO show, there's so much like tourism there. Mm-hmm. Like they'll go, like there's stalkers that'll go specifically break stuff up so people stop going there. There's stalkers will go there and restore it back to its normal thing after it gets broken up. It's like this whole secondary world type of thing. They're called stalkers. Stalkers from that game, video game Stalker.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But so Creason, great channel. So many videos that are so insane. They're just doing like a lot of them are going to Pripyat. They have a lot of people in them, a lot of different characters. Super Seuss. Amazing channel. It's unbelievable. So the great part about it is the guy that does the dubs, a lot of times he's like this one person doing all the voices. Mm-hmm. And like, I don't know what the translation method is. I don't know if it's like, he's not, but anyway, they pay or whatever, pay this person or whatever. But anyway, there was one video that was dubbed by a couple of different people, and people in the comments were like, hell no, go back to the old guy. And the old guy's a lot better. But anyway, it's so awesome because sometimes he says, whenever they said holy moly, he says holy molly every time. Whether they actually say holy moly or they're saying something different, he always says holy moly. In any case, it's awesome experience.
Just show like languages.
It seems like this guy's like not too fluent, but like he obviously does these entire videos. It's awesome. Anyway, that's one of my new stumbling blocks that I've gotten lost to.
Stalkers.
I've gotten lost in this Creason, Super Seuss. They have I guess Russia has their own like Facebook called VK or something. I don't know what it is. I stumbled into that, which I couldn't read anything obviously, but I got a lot of weird stuff going on in my life. Mine. The only thing that came to mind, it's nothing like that. Just I've been watching it a while, but I was really into the bad lip reading for a long time. Oh yeah. That's a great show. It's fantastic. Yeah. It's sports, the movies. Yeah. The best one is the NFL ones. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Like Hambone. Yeah. All right. So Hambone. All right. So this week, we're going to get into something that is one of those mysteries that's kind of not really well documented or not well researched. Not a lot of information out there about it. There are some books. Some of them are different, like some of them are in German, I believe, and or different parts of Europe, like different countries have some like people that have done some pretty significant work on this subject. But we're going to be talking about a mummy that got me already. A mummy from an Egyptian mummy that was discovered to have been wrapped in a book that was written in the Etruscan language. And we're going to go over what the Etruscans were. All right, so a mummy was wrapped, Egyptian mummy was wrapped in a book from
the Etruscan language.
Right. So it's called the Liber Linteus,
Okay.
and it was.
Do you think it was more of a scroll, maybe? Like how big of a book was
called
this?
a linen book. It was quite lengthy. We're going to get into what it actually is because it's difficult to translate the Etruscan language because there's not a lot of records of it. And we're going to go over who they were and stuff like that. But in any case, it's called the Liber Linteus, also known as the Linen Book of Zagreb. It's an ancient text that was wrapped around an Egyptian mummy.
Okay.
And if we know
how
the Etruscans, if we understand the Etruscans were from modern day Italy, before the Romans.
They're Iron Age.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the ancient Egyptian.
Classical, later. Yeah.
So this is two groups that
never probably
proof
ever
that they never really interacted.
Yeah.
Or that had any overlap, especially at this level. Yeah, it's when I stumbled onto this somehow, I was writing this episode and I was like, I really want to do something about ancient Egypt because I think it's such a cool.
Yeah.
Obviously, ancient Egypt in the historical sense is like one of those like top tier. If you're gonna go to the tiers of like history, it's like Rome, Egypt,
Greece. Yeah. The classical period.
Yes.
Plus, I think it's cool that like we're trying to branch out of just the Western world with certain stuff. It's hard. It's like
it is.
I've been trying. It's hard.
It's hard just finding a topic
because I'm sure like this. I know this Etruscan language is like it's not fully been deciphered.
No, and so to this day, it's something that's, and we'll get into it, like what the Etruscans were and who they were, and I think I like the Etruscan art that has been survived for them. There's sculptures and stuff like that are really cool. So this is known as one of the oldest surviving examples of the Etruscan language. So this is not only is it crazy that it ended up finding its way to modern history, modern times in this way. It's traveled through time in some cases, but it traveled there in an unlikely way, being that it came through on a mummy.
Yeah, and all of that, but it was like they're like you said, they're in modern day Italy, and ends up in Egypt, and then it ends up wrapped in a mummy. How does that? Yeah, that's crazy.
You being used to wrap a mummy, and then somehow gets to modern day Croatia.
Modern day Croatia.
That's how it ends up. Yeah.
Jeez.
And it's either Hungary or Croatia. I may be mixing it up. It might be a Croatian man who's from Hungary, who lived in Hungary, but I will get to it. So the Etruscan civilization thrived in ancient Italy from the 8th century BCE to the 3rd century BCE. So a long time ago, before Rome.
Yep.
And it was kind of the precursor, maybe, in some cases. Before we get into the Liber Linteus, what it was, we want to talk, again, because it was so long ago, the Etruscans, who they were. Mm-hmm. And ancient Egypt was also a long time ago, but...
I mean, that lasted for like thousands and thousands of years.
Ancient Egypt was a big, long time frame. So it's kind of like the Etruscans, I'm not sure how their time frame ranked or like kind of compared, but in any case, we know that from 8th century to 3rd century BCE was generally, from what we know, I know there's been a lot of tombs found, Etruscan tombs.
Okay.
But like a lot of their writing and stuff is kind of hard to find.
Yeah.
For whatever reason.
Imagine like Egypt is being old as it is, like there had to have been some kind of overlap between those two civilizations. Not necessarily that they interact with each other, but like time wise, I feel like there had to have been.
The Etruscans actually were, and I said 8th century, I meant, but I misspoke. They were from the 900s, so it had been 10th century. Yeah, up until
BCE.
The 3rd century, they say, but I think their downfall started around then, and they actually, in 90 BCE, they started getting kind of accepted or granted citizenship into the Roman Empire.
Okay.
And so the Egyptians were from 4300 BCE.
Okay.
And they started their downfall was around, I think, the kind of like end of that was like 300s BC.
So they were around for, yeah.
So there was overlap.
There was an overlap, yeah. Okay.
But at the same time, this
doesn't mean that
they actually were hanging out.
Yeah, they're not necessarily, communicating with one another or trading with one another.
So that, again, the Etruscans, and this will go into just the short backstory of the Etruscans, who were an ancient civilization. They were around in modern day Italy. And you said they were Bronze Age?
Iron Age.
Yeah. Okay, Iron Age group. They were said to. It's said that they had influence over the what became the Roman Empire.
Okay.
In certain ways, but I don't think totally. Like
I mean,
they weren't exactly Romans.
That kind of makes sense considering they're in the same region.
Right. It seems like the Romans came over and took them over.
Yeah.
Granted them some stuff. And actually, there is something called the Roman Etruscan Wars.
Oh.
So that happened in the late 4th century.
Okay.
Well, specifically is known is that around 265 there was the conquest of Etruria, which had been the Etruscans from the Romans taking over the Etruscans.
Okay.
And that would have been in 264, 265.
All right.
So anyway, it's really a debate among scholars of the exact origins, who the Etruscans were, where they came from. It seems that there's a lot of there's just this cultures that kind of came together in the region of Etruria, where the name Etruscans comes from, and it's roughly, they say, came from modern day Tuscany, which also includes Western Umbria and Northern Lazio.
Okay.
So all these kind of came together to create the Etruscans.
Is that northern Italy?
Tuscany, yeah. I think it's like Western Northern.
Okay.
I could be wrong. It seems like it's modern, it's western side of the country.
Okay.
They kind of near Corsica, I believe. Some theories suggest that they may have also migrated from another area, from another region, northern, maybe from the French area, came down over the mountains. It seems back then there was just people everywhere.
Yeah,
like people
lots of migration.
Yeah. So depending on the weather.
Yeah, changing of the weather, food. Yeah.
Especially coming over the Alps, maybe that was an issue. Weather. They were known to have their own language. And it's only partially deciphered.
Yeah, I was gonna say
it's not Latin.
Right.
And
it doesn't seem to have because it's not Latin, it doesn't seem to have a lot of connections to any other known languages.
So it's kind of its own distinct thing.
Yeah, which is crazy.
The only way that we really know about the language and how we can kind of start, I guess the way scholars have kind of started to break it apart is by script that was used on tombs and art and various other things that they found, like pottery.
Okay.
There isn't like the Rosetta Stone of Etruscan language. But I think they've kind of really done over history. They've kind of gotten it down, but there's still a lot of it they don't know. Parts of it they don't understand. Their cities were fortified. They were a real civilization, as far as they weren't just an indigenous people that didn't really interact, because obviously they were involved, because Egypt was far from them, but it wasn't on the other side of the world. I'd
imagine, since they don't really have a shared or common language with any of these other places that came out of Europe, they might have been like isolationists, maybe.
And it seems like they were at least involved in the Mediterranean.
Okay.
Because of Egypt.
Right.
But there's not other records of other civilizations around that area interacting with them very much.
Okay.
At least if there is, not having their pottery or having their stuff around. The religion, or the Etruscan people did have a religion that played a significant role in their society. They believed in a pantheon of gods and goddesses, and their religious practices include divination, sacrifices, and elaborate burial rituals. So their tombs, the Etruscan tombs, are kind of well known by it's very specific to them. And
those rituals are a common thing during this time period too. Like many of their societies are going to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They also, there's a kind of, I don't know how they really found this out, but there are scholars that say that they used the flight paths of birds for divination. Like they would read the flight paths and be like, it's kind of how they would talk to the gods, I guess, or kind of get messages from the gods.
This bird's flying this way. That means we can eat today.
Right. Yeah. And so the art has a distinctive style. They have noted for intricate metalwork and pottery. Tomb paintings are very prominent for them. Bronze sculptures, there's a couple, like Apollo Vale, which is a well-known Etruscan sculpture. It started their decline in the 4th century due to the combination of factors including internal conflicts, external invasions by future Roman people, people from the north, and then the Roman Republic the expansion of that republic
Yeah.
took them over. But it eventually disappeared by being absorbed into Rome. It's kind of like it just like their culture just disappeared, including their languages.
Right.
How did they? I guess because it was just the Roman Empire was so powerful.
Right. But I'm sure over it's something that happens over time, not immediately happens that your whole like identity of the civilizations gets completely wiped out. That
We've probably seen that in South America.
Yeah.
With
sure.
Other Incas and things like
Yeah.
that. Okay, so back to Liber Linteus. So this our story kind of takes place in 1848 when a Croatian official in the Hungarian royal chancellery named Mihailo Beric, he left his position and he embarked on a travel to Egypt. So it's like a world tour. And he went to Egypt for a vacation or just a kind of back in the day, at this time, especially 1800s, going to like these ancient places was kind of like Egypt was still not really understood by Western cultures.
Yeah.
So they went there, and when he was in Alexandria, Beric acquired a sarcophagus containing a female mummy as a souvenir. So I guess
you could just buy a sarcophagus.
I guess
in
Egypt at this time, you could just buy because they bought it. I guess there was this weird law where like if you bought it, it's okay.
Okay.
You're taking
it's better than, that's better than what the English did.
Stealing it.
Yeah, just like, hey, this is ours now. We're putting in our museums. Like,
yeah. So he did buy it, but and this jumping ahead, but this wasn't like a king or queen.
Yeah.
It was just a person, like a normal everyday Egyptian. It wasn't a royalty. So that's probably why he was able to buy it. He took it back to Vienna. He displayed the mummy in his sitting room and later removed the linen wrappings.
Going and buy someone's dead body.
Right. And not only that, he displayed it as like in the middle of his room.
Yeah.
His sitting room. So he like looked at it like as if we were watching TV. He was watching this mummy like,
look what I got.
Yeah. Like, could you imagine just sitting there instead of like watching some dumb TV show, you're like just looking at a mummy?
A mummy, a dead body.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, especially in the West, bringing something like that back is kind of crazy.
You
can invite people over and be like, hey, check out this mummy.
Yeah, it's a focal point. Let's talk about this.
Let's have a party around my mummy. And jumping back to the last couple episodes, we talked about what we want to do when our bodies, when we die.
Yeah.
And I said,
do you want to be put on a wall?
You remember what I said?
You want your head or brain to be put in a cyborg or something like that?
That's number one. Number two, I want to be stuffed.
Oh, yeah.
And hold toilet paper for my grandchildren.
That's right.
Great grandchildren. This guy's doing it. I mean, this happened years ago.
Living your dream.
Yeah. This person stole it. But anyway.
Did he just leave it on the wall? Like, did he do anything with it? This guy?
We're going to get to that. So he did just leave it there. I mean, but he noticed that there was like wrappings. I guess, hey, you take this mummy out and it's going to probably start to fall apart.
Yeah.
Right. So it's going to decay. You figure it was underground or for how long in a sarcophagus.
Air's getting to it now.
All right. So he displayed the mummy in his sitting room, standing upright too. It wasn't like it was like laying down. Apparently, this is whether that's exactly true. That's what was reported. So he died. First he took these linen wrappings from the body.
He took them off.
He took them off and he displayed them in a separate case.
Jeez.
He had a glass case, kind of a shadow box, and he displayed them in there. He didn't know that there was stuff written on them. He didn't really notice it. I think he may have noticed it. In some cases, there's reporting that he may notice it and just didn't know what the hell it was and just was like, whatever.
He probably didn't know. I mean, if he did, he probably was like, I don't know.
He probably thought it was Egyptian.
Yeah.
Some ancient Egyptian. Right? He probably thought it was even cool. That's probably why he displayed it.
Right.
And I want to say that Egypt, the mummies they bandaged their mummies for different reasons. Like this is just jumping to like why Egyptians, why would they even why was this mummy wrapped in something?
Mm.
So first, bandages kept moisture away from the body so it would not decompose.
Yeah.
The wrappings will let the embalmers build up the shape of the mummy to give it more of a lifelike form, which I don't know how that worked, if that actually worked. Third, the wrappings kept everything together. Without the binding system, the fragile dissected mummy would fall apart.
Explode, yeah. Apparently that might have happened to King Tut.
When they opened him up or something?
Like apparently they didn't wrap him properly. There's a theory saying he might have spontaneously combusted
Oh,
because they might have wrapped them properly, might have embalmed them properly. Like some chemical reaction happened, where embalming didn't go very well, and the wrapping was like not tight, like airtight, not just airtight, but like not tight enough to keep it from exploding.
And that's crazy that they're linen, especially linen books. Like, I guess like back in ancient Egypt and like even into like the fall of that, the kind of end of what they call the end of ancient Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this was like an industry of like mummies were an industry.
Yeah.
Like their entire, not factories, but there's entire things set up almost like factories to take the body, prepare it for death. And mummies, if you could afford it.
Yeah. It was a ritual. Like, it's part of like your
just like how we have now today.
Yeah.
Depending on your religion and stuff like that, and me being stuffed, that type of thing. So there was a point of mummies being wrapped. There's 3 different specific reasons that we just went over. So he bought this mummy. He dies in 1859.
Yeah.
His brother, who's a priest in Slovenia, takes the mummy because he comes into possession of it, which he's a priest. He has no interest in the mummy. Mm-hmm. And so he donates it in 1867, which 1859, this guy dies. His brother gets it and hangs on until 1867. Then he donates it to the State Institute of Croatia, Slovenia, and Dalmatia in Zagreb. Now it's called the Architectural Museum in Zagreb. So that's where the name, the Linen Book of Zagreb comes from.
Why did you hold on to it that long?
That's another thing. Maybe it took him that long to get it.
Yeah.
I don't know how far away he was, but it seems like he hung on to it for a while. For someone that didn't want it, he wasn't interested in it. Yeah. Plus, again, he didn't really know what he had in the wrappings. And I'm surprised that he kept them together.
Oh, right, yeah.
Because they were separated.
Right.
The original guy, Miho Barak, took them apart. So once it's donated, the wrappings were examined by an Egyptologist. He mistook the inscriptions for Egyptian hieroglyphs. So this German Egyptologist, he kind of looked at the wrappings. Once it was donated to the museum, he looked at the wrappings, but he like misidentified them. It wasn't until 1877 that a guy, so this guy Heinrich Brugisch, he was the German guy. He was talking to someone, Richard Burton, about ruins, and realized the writing on the was not Egyptian. So it wasn't until 1877.
Like 10 years later after he...
So he originally said, this is what it is. No one questioned him. It was still on display. And then he was talking to another guy, another Egyptologist, about ruins, and he realized that this wasn't actually...
Hieroglyphs. Yeah.
So I don't know who really noticed that, but
sounds
he
like
incorrectly concluded that the translation of the Egyptian Book of the Dead in Arabic script. That's what they thought it was. Those two kind of come to they incorrectly thought that at the time, that it was like, oh, this is actually an Arabic translation.
They sound like terrible Egyptologists.
I mean, it's the 1800s. What's Egyptology at that point, right?
Yeah.
It's not like who's that guy? Zawari.
Yeah, I remember he was always on the History Channel.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's like on tour in America.
Yeah.
I don't know where he is right now, but I heard there was a tour of him in America. He tours around and talks, and it'd be awesome to go talk, just to listen to him. But like, he's like the big
Egyptologist, yeah.
And I mean, I'm sure there's tons of other, I'm sure he had people underneath him, but he's like the one guy you want to listen to.
Yeah.
I think his name is Zawari or something like that. So in 1891, the wrappings were transported to Vienna and subjected to thorough examination by Jacob Krall, an expert in Coptic language, who expected the writing to be Coptic, Libyan, or Carian. I don't know what Carian is.
Okay.
I didn't get a chance to look that up, but
I don't know those either.
Coptic, Libyan, or Carian. In 1892, Krall became the first to identify the language as Etruscan and successfully reassembled the strips, establishing that the linen...
So you said 1892?
Right.
Oh, man.
So we're going from... This guy bought it.
Quite the jump.
Yeah, this guy bought it. It's just
40
sitting
years
around.
Or something like that?
So he died in 1859. He bought it in 1848. He brought it back in 1848. And finally in 1892...
Oh, geez.
Because it's crazy thing is this guy sold it in Alexandria. And even though people from Egypt who were selling it
didn't even know.
I think it's crazy that one, they had a body
to
sell. Someone had a store. Could you imagine walking into the store and be like, and there's this guy, and there's this sarcophagus, and like you're just like,
So was his body?
I don't like this one.
Did the body keep getting sold off too, along with these linens?
Well, at this point, when his brother donated it,
Yeah.
so it just kind of stayed in this. Eventually, it stayed in that one museum, but then it made its way to Vienna.
Okay.
So it was then transported to Vienna. I don't know if it was like on loan, that type of
Yeah.
thing.
But wait, are the linens and bodies still together?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So they still know that it's from it. That's like, it didn't get separated.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's still part of that whole thing. And I imagine when someone that's in a museum gets something, they're going to like keep good records of it. You'd hope. Although they didn't know it was not hieroglyphs until. So once he became this Krall guy, Jacob Krall, he finds out, he identifies it as Etruscan language. He kind of like puts it back together, reassembles it. He initially, he was uncertain of where it came from, like where the mummy came from. So he wasn't sure what actually happened. Like he had to like kind of go back and do research on where did this thing even come from. Going back, luckily he had that chain.
Like the money trail.
Going back to the guy who donated, said his brother bought it from Egypt. So they knew it came from Egypt. But when he traced it back, he found that there was papyrus with the burial that actually confirmed the Egyptian identity of the person. And it was a tailor from it was a wife of a tailor from Thebes. She was 30 to 40 years old at the time of her death and had a necklace, traces of flowers and gold in her hair whenever they found her originally, the body.
So the mummy, the body was Egyptian.
Yes. So they were able to trace it back that it actually wasn't some kind of fake.
Yeah. But the linen that was wrapped in was Etruscan.
Right. This guy was trying to establish like a chain of where it came from.
Yeah.
Jacob Krall, he's like, did it actually come from Egypt? Is it a forgery? Did they take it out of Egypt and then, because it was separated from the body, was it something he had separate? But they were able to trace it back and be like, no, this actually came from this body. This is 1800s, late 1800s at this point. Who knows? I would think generally the amount of research done with this subject, not a ton, especially in our country, as far as like records of it, of happening. But from historical things go, it seems like he was pretty confident. Jacob Krall was confident that it came from Egypt. He was able to go back and find out who sold it, what was in it whenever they found the actual body or found the sarcophagus.
It sounds like he's thorough.
Right. There also were fragments of a reef and a cat skull with the body whenever they found it originally. So it looks like they kind of cleaned, maybe they cleaned all that out. I don't know.
Cats have some kind of significance in
Egypt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe the cat just got in there and died. Who knows?
That'd be a hell of a thing.
Yeah.
There's no other bones, just the cat skull.
Cat skull.
So I imagine it's all part of that system.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess you would think like it wasn't actually buried with any gold. Like it wasn't like this was like a king or a queen. Yeah. It was a tailor from Thebes. Right. They were traced back to a tailor from Thebes who died between 30 and 40 years.
But had enough money to actually do the whole
So because he was a
process.
tailor, he probably had enough money to actually bury his wife. So back to the content of the book. We're going to go over to that now. So that's the story. We have the lineage of where it went, how it got there. We don't know much more than like came from Egypt. They have proof of what it came from, but this all may be a forgery.
Okay.
Still, that's kind of like some people say like, no, it's been a forgery from the beginning. This Barrack guy did it. This Egyptian seller did that to like make it more interesting. But you would think
more exotic.
Right, but if you would think, why wouldn't they say that when they sold it? It probably would be worth a lot more. He probably would have known when people. So there's also like records of people coming over to his house and like looking at this thing, but not saying, "Hey, this is Etruscan."
Right, but who would even have the knowledge to like write it in Etruscan in the first place?
Right, especially in Egypt. Someone's selling bodies in Egypt.
At that time, it's like people don't understand the language. People probably think it's a dead language.
Right. Even at that time, you would think like the hieroglyphs, like ancient Egyptian language, would have been not really well known, understood.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't until like what the Rosetta Stone was the thing that they used to figure out that. Right.
The Rosetta Stone was the basis of how people for the first time were able to translate the Egyptian language.
So it was 3 different languages.
3 different languages. There's hieroglyphs on there. Greek was on there.
And some other form of
Egyptian like hieroglyphs, but like written in a different way.
Okay. So yeah, I think I remember that now. So it seems that the way that they used it. So this kind of, they don't have the Rosetta Stone for the Etruscans. There's no way to like translate to like Latin or anything like that.
Yeah.
So the Liber Linteus itself is a book made of linen cloth, which is part of its name. It is covered in writing. It consists of multiple strips of linen that are stitched together to form a 3.5 meter long roll. It's written in Etruscan.
So it was a roll.
Yeah. It was written in Etruscan, but here's the little wrinkle. It uses a script slightly different from one found in other Etruscans inscriptions. So it is Etruscan mostly, but it uses a different script. Like it's slightly different, which is part of the problem, I guess, in translating it.
Okay.
Though there are scholars and scientists and historians can't really they don't really understand the Etruscan written language or the language in general. They are able to decipher certain words and phrases, and so they can kind of work on the subject matter of the Liber Linteus. So there's a couple of different theories of what it actually is.
Taking like context clues.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think, again, that's how they also can slightly decipher the Etruscan language. There's probably a lot of kind of those words may have like crept into the Roman written word, which I think was Latin, if I'm right.
Yep.
Okay.
Do you think that the fact that that one part was not typical means it possibly could be a forgery?
I mean, yeah, it definitely too. But they were able to decipher enough of it. So yes, it could be a forgery, but they were able to decipher enough of it in 1800s and even into the 1900s and into modern day that they can kind of get an idea of what it says generally. So if it was forgery, it was a pretty good forgery for someone in Egypt to forge it, because they were able to at least identify that the kind of wrappings, the linen, was old. It wasn't like someone just took this linen.
Yeah.
They knew it was an old thing.
Yeah, I wonder if they had like the dating. I don't think they had
carbon dating, whatever.
Probably not back then.
I don't know. I have no idea. But I know that they were able to at least say this definitely came off this mummy, or for whatever reason. I'm sure it wasn't all taken off very cleanly. I'm sure some was stuck to it still. And so he took off some of the wrappings. I'm sure there was enough here that they could say
this is old.
Yeah. And it came from this mummy.
Yeah. Have you ever tried like doing a decoding kind of thing, like ciphering?
We talked about that in the last episode.
Yeah, like
cipher and
cryptology, not cartography, but cryptology.
The map making.
But I remember like for example, the Zodiac Killer. Oh yeah. He always sent like these cryptographs. I don't know if that's using this the right way, but he put it, and they got printed in the newspaper, and like all these people would write in
what they thought it meant.
Yeah, like
really, but no one had the key to break the cipher.
I would be terrible at those, but I think they're so cool.
Yeah,
trying to do something like that.
I think it's awesome.
Obviously, not if people are getting murdered to figure this out.
The Zodiac Killer wasn't awesome, but I think the idea of this kind of challenge, like a brain teaser, thing, but you have to have that key, or it doesn't make any damn sense. Yeah, so it can't be done in such a jackass way that you don't have.
Right, but you can also usually, and it seems like what the problem is with this, at least the Etruscan languages, there's nothing in there that resembles anything else. Like, so say with like the Zodiac Killer, there's other puzzles that are like things like that have already been published that you can research and like find in a library. Like, oh, this kind of looks like this. Yeah. This symbol kind of looks like this. I can kind of deduce or do context clues about what this means. But like, this seems like they're just kind of on their own. Like,
I think they were able to use other things from the Etruscan language. Like, again, on their tombs and stuff like that, they can kind of use that. That's kind of the basis of a lot of what I guess the research was. But they did go into, think about the Enigma code.
Yeah.
Like, what's his name? The guy that solved it. The Imitation Game, great movie about that. And I tell you, that was a huge. They needed the key, and the way they got it was a couple soldiers were able to get on a submarine, I believe, and steal it before, because the original thing they did was the cipher. The thing that they used for the name of code was destroyed as soon as anybody even came close to destroying this. They're attacking their ship. Yeah, and so the Nazis would destroy it really quick. But then it so happened that these soldiers were able to sneak aboard and get it, and that's how they kind of deciphered it. And what's his name? Alan Turing.
Turing, yeah. He had a horrible, like, the way his life ended was terrible.
But
he did a great thing.
He's like
an amazing thing.
One of the reasons why he was so good at it that they allowed ships to be destroyed because they didn't want the Nazis to even think. But he was like a hero. Back then, they didn't think it was a hero because of very specific reasons. Yeah. But now, thankfully, they kind of turned around and recognized him as a national hero, international hero for doing such amazing work.
I think, didn't the U.S. use...
He's known as the father of cryptography, the father of computer science.
Yeah. I think Steve Jobs was obsessed with him. Yeah.
I mean, for anybody
that's based on a movie I saw about Steve Jobs, so I'm not sure if that's true, but yeah. Anyways.
I mean, anybody in the computer science field, he's known as the father of computer science.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. All right.
Computer science, cybersecurity, that type of thing.
Okay.
So, back to the Liber Linteus. There are things on this text that give the idea or give the kind of impression that it's maybe a religious calendar. It could be, it has names of God. Like there's a lot of different things that they can say that this might be a calendar, this might be prayer, that type of thing. And we're going to go into that. There's a couple different theories on a lot of this story. Some say it's like something about like ceremonies and processions that you would do for the dead.
Okay.
So we're going to go into that. But
sorry, did you say how big this thing was?
3.5 meters long.
Okay.
When it's reconstructed.
Wow.
So one thing that this does, the reason why this is kind of important, why we're kind of talking about it, or why we know about it, why scholars even look into it, is because it sheds lights on the religious beliefs, the rituals, and the practices of the Etruscans. So it kind of is like a pretty this one sample, this one thing, this book is basically the one thing they have to try to figure out more history of the Etruscans, because there really was nothing else there.
But the body was an Egyptian,
right?
All right.
That's kind of like one of the theories we're going to get into. And that's the next thing I was going to say. That the fact that this was found in Egypt raises questions about ancient civilizations traveling and interacting with one another when they thought they didn't.
Oh, okay.
Especially the Etruscans interacting with ancient Egyptians. Like, could there have been further other things the Etruscans were involved in? We just
don't know about. Yeah.
So that's another thing of like human history, that type of like figuring out who's where, what's going on when, and that type of stuff. So here's some of the theories. There's two categories of what's going on. And this is, I'm going to break these theories down. So there's two categories. There's one, the first category is what the text says and or its significance to us, humans, to human nature or human history. The second is second category is why the mummy was wrapped in the text, why the text was even in Egypt.
Yeah.
Which there's less theories about that, because how do you even come to, like, it's so, one, as I mentioned, this text being found in Egypt raises the question on if or how and why and when and if ancient civilizations like the Etruscans, this before BCE, the Egyptians trading with other people around the world?
Yeah.
Were the Etruscans trading with other people? Does it raise a question of who came to what country first?
Right.
If they were actually traveling the places.
And if this whole thing is like real, then that proves that point, right? Like,
yeah, that there was trade in a time when they thought no trade was possible.
So, I mean, that could be a massive breakthrough.
Like trading at this time in human history, from Italy to Egypt, today it seems insane that, yeah, of course they traded. But when you look back and think about, were they making boats? I mean, we know that the Egyptians were making boats. Yeah, like they were actually traveling around the Mediterranean.
Right.
Were they going further? Were they going up to the northern part of Europe and over to different, the east?
Yeah, they're definitely using the Nile, but yeah, who knows I'm sure somebody knows, but who knows how far they're actually venturing out.
Right.
If their ships have the capability to do that.
And why did all that trade break down?
Yeah. And why is there no record of it?
Right. Why is there no stronger record of it? Why do we not find more Etruscan stuff in other countries?
Right.
Why don't we find more in Egypt? Why does it take this? Why is this the only thing they found?
This is the only thing they found?
I mean, that we know of, that was found and translated. I mean, there may be some other crap underground still that no one ever found. But, so, first category, what it says, what it could say. First is, some people think that it's a funerary ritual, and it was used for burial ceremonies.
I mean, it seems most logical since this person wrapped in it, yeah.
since it was, again, that's exactly what, since it was found in a mummy, supports that theory. Was it instructions left for future people in that region? Why was it there? But we'll get into that. Another one is it is a religious or sacred text, like a Bible, like our, the Christian Bible, because it mentions, they think, mentions deities and ceremonies in a religious context. Another, it's a calendar or almanac that could possibly detail important dates, festivals, astronomy, like events, and
astronomical.
Thank you, God. Dang it. Astronomical events.
Right? That's the right word for it, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Hey, I'm a doctor.
Don't correct me. Don't correct me while we're recording. I'm a doctor.
You don't know what the hell I'm doing here. This is all garbage. No. The theory is based on, so that theory.
No, but this is interesting though, because these are what societies were doing back then. Like we're like following astronomical events. They were using the astronomical events as a calendar. They were in some form or another creating rituals. Obviously, they're different religions. They have different deities, like different thoughts of the afterlife. But I do think this is interesting because there's a common thing, that thread between these.
Right, it makes sense. Yeah. But
we don't really know anything about the Etruscans, really.
Why was in Egypt?
Like, were they mummifying people?
They found their tombs. They found Etruscan tombs.
Right.
But like they weren't mummified like the Egyptians.
That's what I'm saying. It just makes an interesting fact.
Plus, different. Like Egyptians' mummies work because of the dry climate.
Right. Oh, that's true. Yeah, I didn't really think of that.
Etruscans were in Egypt.
Damn it, science. But
damn
you, science.
Water and worlds.
But I was just thinking, like, you would think if there's this Egyptian woman who's buried, mummified, wrapped in this Etruscan linen that either has like or a ritualistic meaning to it, astronomic reason for it, that somewhere in the Etruscan world you would have found maybe a mummified person with Egyptian hieroglyphs.
Maybe even in one of the tombs, some Egypt stuff.
Yeah, it seems like just based on this. I'm basing solely on the fact that there's Egyptian a mummy wrapped in an Etruscan written linen, that there's some kind of overlap. Like the things where they were trading things with each other, knowledge, stuff like that.
And also, this is, we talked about the Etruscans when they rose 900. 10th
century, yeah.
Okay, 900 to the Roman Empire, right? And the Egyptians are around. The Etruscans had to kind of build their culture and have the ability to create a linen book that has like this entire very well thought out background of their religion and everything.
Right.
Record that, somehow then travel to Egypt. That they were so well established that they were able to travel, trade, have this entire history, like their own culture at a time whenever the Egyptians were they were around.
Yeah.
I don't know, towards the end of their reign, but still.
Yeah.
And then somehow with such the Egyptian culture being so focused on their thing, being buried within another culture's.
Yeah, that's odd.
Another theory is that it's educational material, kind of used to teach the language to future generations, or in the afterlife, so that this mummy could go to the afterlife and be able to teach. Bless you.
Thank you. Sorry.
This mummy was able to go to the afterlife and teach that language to the afterlife, which is kind of a reach whenever you think of also their culture.
Would that mean they share the same afterlife then?
Right. It's kind of a reach given their religious culture backgrounds, what they thought the afterlife was. Maybe there was overlap. Yeah.
Which is not crazy because like the Romans basically assimilated the Greek gods.
Right.
They just changed their names. And that's happened before. Like, okay, yes, sir.
You're right. I mean, it happens, it has happened, and it continues to happen.
But the fact that these people like thought they had no interaction whatsoever makes it kind of a reach.
Yeah. Some people, here's another one. some researchers think that the text is a Rosetta Stone type thing to link Latin and the Etruscan language. It may represent this merging of Roman and Etruscan cultures, trying to influence other cultures to their thoughts, the Roman expansion.
Okay.
Kind of to bring in, like they're trying to.
So this might have been during the period when like they already might have been being assimilated in the Roman culture. Okay.
And they were trying to, they were combined because they had the same kind of deities, like
I mean,
styling
yeah, because
as Greek.
So the Romans would have had interactions with the Egyptians at this point, right? Because this is on the downfall of the Egyptian,
which is 300 BC.
Yeah, you had Mark Antony and
Cleopatra
having interactions, Julius Caesar having interactions with Cleopatra. So, yeah, there could be a bridge there between the Romans and Egyptians. How the Etruscan language or some kind of Etruscan heritage could get over to Egypt.
Would this have been more widespread then? Would we find more mummies with the Etruscan language? But again,
you think it would have been?
Know.
Yeah, you think it would have been.
It's actually just a common person. This is just a commoner.
That's the thing. I wonder how many times people came across a mummy or were able to buy one.
Yep.
That was wrapped in one of these linens that they just assumed was hieroglyphics. Because maybe you say for like a decade or two, like they thought it was Egyptographer thought it was hieroglyphics.
Yeah,
so like
Egyptologists even thought that.
So they're just like, oh, it's hieroglyphics. Has some kind of Egyptian language on it. That's that. End of story. Like, you could be more of that stuff, like these mummies out there.
Yeah. And I think that's, again, a common, we talked about this in the King Alaric episode about how Christianity was thought of as the kind of the poor people's religion. Yeah. Until it was this kind of that where like the common people believed in this Etruscan, like it could have been something as simple as like the common people idolized this unknown, this other, kind of how Western cultures idolize the East at certain times in history as like this ancient knowledge type of people. Yeah. The Egyptians at that time, was it this group? Was it, another theory is like, was it this common group kind of idolizing this Etruscan world?
Oh.
So a couple other, the first category type of things. Again, what does the Liber Linteus mean? Some say that there's missing parts, which is kind of easy to say because it's like you'll never know. Like there's a key to this where it actually connects it all together, but we'll never find it. That type of thing. Some of the final theories they are trying to, again, as I said, this is like a thing that is proving connection between these two cultures. That maybe the Egyptians or the Etruscans are the same people. That the Etruscans ran away when the Romans came in and made ancient Egypt, which doesn't make sense. But did ancient Egypt expand into the Etruscan world at a time before the Romans came in and they were already established? Those people from Egypt left Egypt and expanded and created their own thing, their own. In Italy, because they were around till 4300 BCE. Could they have kind of expanded on their own across the Mediterranean?
For various reasons, like and there might have been a drought or like
because it happened so long ago. Maybe there's such a gap that they kind of had their own. They kind of turned into the Etruscans,
right? Yeah. Like so, that's what exactly. So like when the Roman Empire split, which I think we talked about,
King Alaric.
Those people who went to Constantinople, they were for years, like centuries, they still thought themselves as Romans, but in time, because time passed, they eventually started seeing themselves as Greeks.
Right.
Because that very same thing could possibly going to happen.
Right. That's one of the theories that's one of the theories of our category 2, that this is actually a break-off group from.
But there's no record of it. That's a thing.
Right. There's no other record of it.
Right.
Because I imagine there'd be a lot more record. But anyway, another category 2. So category 2, again, is category 1 was what the text says and its significance, why it was there. And second is what and why the mummy was wrapped in it. So one was it was a break-off group from the Egyptians.
Yeah.
Number 2 is The text was deliberately written in a script that was not easily readable to protect its message, which obviously always happens with these type of things. It's like, oh no, we're not worthy to understand it yet. Until the people in the spaceships come back.
Until Zunu comes down in the spaceship and we have to put our Nikes on and drink the Kool-Aid.
So that's the second theory. And then the third theory of category 2 is it is a sacrificial rite, a ritual associated with mummified individual. Says this is kind of like a defense on why we mummified this person. They were Etruscan and we mummified them. But there's record of them being Egyptian, being this person, a wife of a tailor. Maybe,
oh shoot, man. Maybe there wasn't over, like maybe I don't know. This would be a stretch, but maybe.
So that's all the theories.
Okay.
What do you think happened? Why is this mummy from Egypt wrapped in this linen book from the Etruscans, which is Italy at this, pre-Italy, pre-Rome?
Sorry, what year was it bought?
1848.
48.
1848 in Alexandria.
Okay. Man.
And you could buy, what's crazy thing is you can buy bodies in Egypt. I guess it was because it was.
Yeah. I don't know if at this time, but it might have been around this time. At one point, it wasn't a colony of England, but England basically controlled it. So this is when people were over, like you said, going over there digging up stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I feel like, I don't know if it's true, but I feel like they might have been respecting what they were doing because sometimes they use like dynamite to blow up some of these tombs that they found. So it would make sense that it'd be viable for you to just go over there like, I'm going to buy this body.
Yeah. I think it was some kind of, again, I'm going to look it up because I know I read this, that it was okay based on very specific reasons. But in any case, why mummy was found in Egypt. Now, we don't know where it was found. That's the other thing. But then if it was not found in Egypt,
Egypt's big.
How would they get a book written in Etruscan? And even if it was a fake, how would they get someone who knew Etruscan well enough to write a book that even scholars can partially translate? Being very specific on the content matter was very specific to other things that they've translated with Etruscan languages on deities, their calendar, their kind of beliefs and things.
But couldn't someone just be like, write it and be like, oh, this is Etruscan?
But it matched up.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
So how could someone just fake it, forge it?
Yeah.
I mean, they could.
Unless someone who knew Etruscan was in on the whole thing and was like, I'm going to write this and sell it off. But you said, like, you made the point, though.
At the 1800s.
You made the point, though, like, why wouldn't you try and upsell it? Because, like, this is language.
And I think that's why they point out in the story that this guy who bought it was not a rich person. He was not, I mean, he was well off. He was able to travel to Egypt and stuff. But
also, how would he even know? Like, you not even have known the Etruscans were even a thing. Because would you say he came from Croatia?
Croatia. Sorry.
But I would imagine people from where this gentleman's from might not know, not because of where he's from, but I'm saying like the fact that Etruscans weren't well known enough about that he probably didn't even know what he got. Obviously, he didn't.
He didn't know until
he probably didn't go in there knowing to look for something like that.
He just bought it.
Yeah,
it could have been the next guy. I mean, like I said, it was. I'd imagine like a car lot where you walk in, like there's all these sarcophaguses just piled up, and like I want that one. Yeah, and he just got lucky that he got. Now there may have been other ones there. Or like
someone buys a estate and like they found out he had like a Honus Wagner card and like, oh, look at this, look at what I have here, like all this expensive baseball card.
No idea who the hell that is.
This is one of the, I don't know, play for the Pirates. It's one of the most expensive baseball cards, I think. Anyways,
listen.
So he probably didn't go here seeking out the Etruscans. It's anything to do with the Etruscans.
No, I don't think he did at all. I think he had no idea what he got.
He probably just like, oh, I could get this. Because
they thought even Egyptologists thought it was hieroglyphics.
Yeah, right.
For 40, 50 years.
So I don't think this man who bought this has any kind of ulterior motive.
Nope. So why would this guy who had no idea what the hell he was doing? It's not like they forged it and ripped him off.
Right.
Because he has no idea what the hell he's looking at. Why would he even know? They didn't even tell him it was Etruscan because he never said it to his brother.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, yeah. And his brother didn't know what he's had.
Right.
And he held on to it for what, like a decade or something like that?
Yep. It just seems like it's the original origin story is pretty convincing that no idea what the hell, no one had an idea what the hell was going on, even the people who sold it. Because if they would have known what it was, they probably would have sold it, like it would have been a big deal.
Yeah.
Unless it was like some guy in an alley, like, hey, you should buy this thing. I stole it.
I do want to go back to the fact that there's that theory of maybe these people were Egyptians. They just, over time, they moved to the this region in Italy. I'm trying to think what would cause them to do something like that.
Why would they
leave Egypt?
Yeah. I mean, we don't know.
I know, like, biblically and, like, historically, Jewish people left Egypt, but, like, but why would what else would cause something like that? I can't really think of anything. Like, obviously, there could be, like, a drought, but, like, or famine or
beliefs.
Beliefs, sure, yeah, beliefs.
Like, maybe they were just an offshoot of a certain religion.
Yeah.
But they didn't have hieroglyphics on this thing.
But even throughout Egypt, like the gods and goddesses were constantly changing. So it kind of seems weird to me that they would leave because of religious regions. Yeah. Because, like, unless there's that much more that much of a big drastic change, that's definitely possible. Like, it's happened before. Part of me was thinking, like, when near the end of this, when we're talking about how the Egyptian woman's body, the mummy, was wrapped in this linen made by the Etruscans with the Etruscan writing on it. Maybe, I think you'd mentioned something like the person that died, clearly was Egyptian, but maybe the Etruscans wrapped her in this as like a, I forget how you put it, like
a funerary rite or
funeral rite, but it was done in Etruscan because maybe, and this is, I'm going on the basis that they did have interactions with each other. They were in contact with each other
to kind of save this.
And maybe, like, something happened with this woman, they were killed by an Etruscan, and maybe, like, this was their way of saying, like, sorry, we honor your right of her burial rights of being mummified, and we also want to pay our own respects by putting this ritualistic wrapping around.
It was like
her.
A donation.
That, or just like a
but it was a
peace offering kind of thing.
But she was a wife of a tailor who had linen.
Oh, right. Damn it.
So why would he even bother? He'd be like, I'm going to use my own linen.
But maybe like whoever Etruscan was that killed her, or however she died, like I don't know, man.
Etruscan too. I mean, that would have to be a person that, again, you'd have to expect them to be out. Why is this the only one? If this is so, I don't. It just seems like there should have been other records of other Etruscan things.
Yeah, that's
copies of books or whatever.
That's what I keep going back to in this area.
Jars,
yeah,
anything.
Yeah,
any of their artwork was never found. I mean, on record, I didn't really do the research on that level, but why is this? Even in the research that's done for this episode, but the research on this specific subject,
again, is very minimal, just because of the fact that no one really knows the language.
This is known as, this is the Linen Book of Zagreb, comment on the longest Egyptian text by Louvain and Dudley. Another one by Vandermeer is the Linen Book of Zagreb, a comment. So again, it seems that this is like known as the longest, this is the most survivable text they found.
Mm.
It just seems crazy that it was found on a mummy in Egypt.
Yeah.
It wasn't found anywhere in Italy.
Yeah.
The Romans, did they destroy all if they had a book that was linen, that was written, that made it to Egypt, and they didn't find anything in Rome or like in that area?
Yeah.
And any of the records of Rome? That's kind of a weird thing. Now, there may have been, again, the research I did didn't go back that far or go in that direction of like, was there other Etruscan books written? But it seems like people say that this is the longest linen book, and there must have been others. If it's the longest, there must have been others.
Oh, right, yeah.
But not enough that it makes this much of a significant jump or mark, I should say.
I think it'd be like really fascinating if this was like the starting point where people start like figuring out or finding and discovering that the fact that the Etruscans were, in fact, not just isolated and were interacting with all these other people in like the antiquity, or near the antiquity. But we're not there yet. If that is the case, and that's frustrating.
And if you look at like some of the art, the Etruscan art, it is very like
similar.
No, it's similar to like Roman art. You can see where like the lineage of like Etruscan art to Roman art, like the way they sculpt and the kind of way
they
that
did
they're
pottery too. You said, right?
Yeah. And they have sculptures of humans that look in the same direction as like if you look at further Roman sculptures.
Okay.
The use of contrapposto wasn't there yet, which is like the ability of to stand on its own sculpting.
Okay.
There wasn't that, but they have a lot of their.
What'd you say it's called? Contrapposto?
Contrapposto is like it's like
it could stand on its own.
Stand on its own without having like a lot of like Greek
I didn't know that.
sculptures. They have like them standing next to a pillar.
Yeah.
Or standing on a tree.
Right.
It's because they can't stand up by themselves.
Couldn't figure out the balance.
Right. So Rome, and then after the, especially this really came in after the Renaissance. That became a big thing. But I think Rome started that process. Cool. I think.
All right.
Like there's lineage there but
I never realized that. I didn't know that was had a name for that. That's neat.
They have a lot of the Etruscans really had a lot of like painted terracotta sarcophagus, and so there was kind of that lineage. You could see like Roman sarcophagus and kind of like
those similarities.
Yeah, but you don't see that in Egypt,
right? But are these similarities more so because they were slowly being absorbed by Rome? The things that they're founding, the art, like, is that art looks similar because this is a point where they're starting to have interactions with Rome. They're starting to slowly be absorbed by Rome. I'd be curious to see if like that's what their art looked like the whole time.
Right.
Like,
I think someone said that it was. I think some of the records that it was like it could have been more that there was kind of like a Greek
influence.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. A Greek influence in some ways.
Which makes sense. Yeah.
But all we know, and I'm just looking at this right now, kind of more of a expansionist view of the Etruscan. They did spread out around the Mediterranean, but it doesn't look like they made it all. Like it doesn't look like they made it. They made it to Spain, like parts of Spain.
Etruscans did.
Yeah.
Wow.
They founded colonies along the coast of Sardinia, Spain, and Corsica.
Okay.
They allied with Carthage.
Yeah.
They also,
which is a big enemy of Rome.
Who?
Rome.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it looks like they did kind of spread out around the Mediterranean, but not. Their kind of central location was northern Italy.
Is Carthage Africa or near Africa?
It is.
Could be. I don't know. I think that because if it is, like, that's getting in the ballpark of Egypt.
It looks like it's northern Africa.
Okay. There you go. So, I mean, if they're getting out that way, it's definitely possible they're getting to Egypt because Egypt, obviously not.
It looks like they were over by Spain.
Okay.
Because they kind of went up north and over.
Right.
And then they kind of went the other way a little bit. But I guess they had to have made it over to Egypt.
I really do want to think that they made it to Egypt.
They had to have.
There's some kind of like understanding or camaraderie or like peaceful thing between them, even if it's just trade. Not necessarily peaceful. I'm just saying like there had to. I want to believe there had to have been some kind of interaction between these two people.
It seems like they really there was trade around the Mediterranean as far back as ancient Egypt and things. We see that there's a lot of stuff going on. It does say here that the Etruscans did travel around and trade.
Okay. But not necessarily in Egypt, though. Right. I didn't feel like, as far as everyone's concerned, like all the people that are involved with this whole thing, it doesn't seem like there's any kind of weird, shady.
Well, it does say that they were at the crossroads of Greek and Egypt. Okay. So maybe they were just like a good pathway. But again, why was this lady wrapped in a book that was from, and there's no other ones? It's not like there's a whole bunch of them.
Yeah, right.
Because like the person next to her, first of all, how does this person get these things?
So that's what I was trying to get at. So like, it seems like everyone involved in this, like there's no like sinister thing going on from the person who bought it and everyone it's gone to since then. But like, how did this person who sold it to this gentleman
get it
in the first place? And then no one else has come across something like this before.
It's almost like it was like that's these kind of mummies were almost like like they were digging up coal. Like it was like a natural resource. They were just like mining for gold, and they're like
mining for mummies.
This is gold for us right now.
Do you think mummies are zombies or zombies are mummies?
Is that like a internet thing?
I don't know.
Are mummies zombies?
Yeah, because they're like both undead. I don't know if they both eat
better
brains.
clothes.
I mean, like, yeah.
I mean, I guess if you got to have one,
because I know the mummy was obviously before the zombie. Like the idea of a mummy coming back to life was before the idea of a zombie, but I feel like they're kind of the same thing. But I do think they are different, though.
It's like a poor man's mummy. Zombie's a poor man's mummy.
Or vice
Over
versa.
in America, we couldn't afford some wraps, drying out. We're just gonna throw them on the ground and let them go.
I do think zombies are different than mummies, but I've seen people make the argument that they're kind of the same thing.
Again, it seems like mummies were better cared for. Zombies are kind of just kicked
yeah,
to the curb.
Yeah.
Again, we just dump them in the
Also, I don't know how you kill a mummy. Zombies just like
unwrap them.
headshot, unwrap
Based
them.
on the movies I've saw, Transylvania 1, 2, and 3, Adam Sandler's best role. You can't really kill them. You just kind of unwrap them, and then there's kind of nothing.
We have like all those old movies like The Wolfman, Invisible Man, Dracula, Mummy, but we haven't watched The Mummy yet. I want to watch that because I'm just curious to see like.
Wait, is it like the Tom Cruise Mummy?
No, these are ones from like the 30s and like
the one that ruined like the monster universe.
Yeah, you're supposed to do the whole Universal thing. Yeah, I do want to see that just because it did kill the whole thing.
Because like the first one was like Dracula, whatever it was, or Orlando Bloom was Dracula.
Wait, what?
Yeah, like the first one in that series was Dracula Untold or whatever, and it was like Orlando Bloom was Dracula, and then it was supposed to be the Mummy.
Okay.
And then it was whatever's next.
Yeah, they do Jekyll and Hyde. I remember.
Yeah.
Invisible Man, they were going to do.
But I guess Mummy was so bad. Like Dracula Untold came out, but Mummy was so bad.
Dracula Untold? Was that Orlando Bloom?
Yeah.
I thought it was like Carl Urban. No. Was it? No, was it Carl Urban?
Dracula. We're really.
But yeah, I do want to watch because I'm just curious of like, how do you kill a mummy? Do you really? Does he do?
Luke Evans. I'm sorry.
Luke Evans. That's what it was.
Not Orlando Bloom.
I saw that movie. The movie was all right. The dad from Game of Thrones was in that.
The dad from Game of Thrones?
Not Targaryen. Lannister.
There's so many people.
The Lannister, like the dad, the one that gets shot on the toilet with a crossbow.
Oh, that dude. Yeah. Okay. That was Lannister.
Lannister, yeah. I said Targaryen originally. But yeah, he's
Charles Dance.
Yeah, he's in that movie.
He's the master vampire.
Yep. There's some cool stuff in there. I didn't know that was part of the whole kicking off that thing.
It's supposed to be, I think, is how that was. I could be totally wrong, but I'm almost positive that was Universal. Universal made it. That was when they were trying to make. Man.
Those old mummy movies were good though, like the first two with
Brendan Fraser.
Oh, they were great.
Scorpion King. That was a third one.
I didn't see that one.
With The Rock.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've never seen either of them. Mummy 2. I mean, that's the top of Brendan Fraser's game.
Yeah. Right before it did was it Dudley
Do Right. Yeah, Dudley Do Right. Well, back to the mystery
right
at hand.
there.
It seems like
it was Dudley Do Right all along.
Dudley Do Right was the one who wrapped the Egyptian lady.
Yeah. And then Tom Cruise ruined it.
Well, as he does most things. We have a lady wrapped in Etruscan Linen Book.
Yeah.
Buried in Egypt.
Scroll.
Yeah. Found again. And here we are. We have no idea how she got there. We know who she was, technically. We don't know how she got there. Not only that, I think one thing, jump back, her name, her information they found about her was on papyrus. That was in the tomb with her,
right?
Whatever. So they were to go back and find that. But that's the
Egyptian
paper. Yeah.
Yeah.
So why was the Etruscan book there? Why didn't they just write it on linen?
Oh, what the hell, man!
And he was a tailor too. Her husband was a tailor.
That changes things. No, oh wow.
Why was that written on a papyrus, and she had wrappings that were linen cloth?
Maybe her husband was Etruscan.
He was a tailor.
Yeah. The uniting of two worlds.
The original Romeo and Juliet.
There you go. Back to Leonardo DiCaprio.
Full circle. Those blue eyes just Bring me down. Bring my knees to the ground. Well, I think that's all we have for this episode because, again,
yeah, that was cool, man. I never heard of this, so I think it's really.
It's
neat
not
that
really
you
well
came
done.
Up with this.
Yeah, like I said, I just searched around, found something that was ancient Egypt. There's not a lot of information on this story, but there's a lot of information on theories.
But that's what makes it cool. Like it opens up the world of possibilities.
What it could actually be.
Yeah.
It's just two things. It's something not in the right spot.
Right.
But again, we don't really know if there are other mummies floating around out there to this day. I mean, they could have been. They could have been destroyed.
Yeah. Or they could someone, like I said earlier, could have had one of these in their house and not realize they had the Etruscan linen.
And it just rotted away.
Yeah.
It's stuck in a basin somewhere or something. Well, that is all we have for you this episode. Thank you all for joining us. Jordan, thank you for being here and listening to me
Thank you.
talk about this. We do have social media, Facebook, Instagram,
Trying.
Twitter, still going, hopefully.
It's tough.
Please
Getting old.
take a look at that. YouTube, if you're listening on a podcast feed, like we're on every podcast platform currently. Please subscribe to either the podcast feed or go onto YouTube. We do have YouTube. We have live videos if you want to see our faces, and who wouldn't? Please check out the other episodes we have. If you're watching us on YouTube, know that you can also listen to us as a podcast. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say you should go to other places because of monetization or whatever YouTube does. I don't really know how this all works yet. We're still figuring that stuff out. But you can go ahead and subscribe to us if you'd like. If you liked us,
listen on podcast and then watch it again on YouTube.
Yeah. Hey, just hit that button and walk away. Whatever. Don't even listen. Just as long as you hit play, I don't care. But if you liked us, like our stuff, if you could help us out by subscribing to us in any way you can. And we would love to hear from you via email or on social media. If you have any ideas for episodes, stories like this,
that'd be great.
We would love to research them, figure out more, find out more. If you have maybe from your hometown, wherever you're from, small, like this Liber Linteus thing, it's not really well known, but it's a mystery. All right, next week we're back again. Hopefully, Jordan's up next.
Yep.
And he's going to be talking about a mystery.
That's how it goes.
Weird.
Couple
Weird
guys talking about mysteries. Who would have thought?
Couple guys and a mystery.
Based on the title.
Couple pals and a mystery.
Couple pals and a mystery.
Well, we thank you all. We love you all. Jordan, you're the best. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, you too, man. Thanks.
Thank you. And we will see you or hear from you or listen to you. We won't do any of that.
But watch you while you sleep.
We will be back next week. You will listen to us or see us or
you will
see us. Yeah, you'll do that. We won't be doing that because that's not how the internet works.
Yeah, we don't know you. We don't know you. Except for Mom. Hi, Mom.
Yeah. Hi, family people.
Because that's it.
All right. Thank you and good night.
Stay mysterious.
Stay mysterious.